this is now going to affect you and us when it comes to buying cars, for example. If we have a 20% tariffs on Germany or in some of these European countries, then the customer, which is us, will have to then pay for that cost. It's going to be pushed to us. So it's important to understand these dynamics because it then affects ultimately what we do moving forward.
Over the first half of the 2020s, the prices that Americans pay for items of all kinds rose at a fast pace. Higher tariff rates could make prices begin to climb again. This happens if businesses mark up their products.
A business markup is the difference between what a business spends and what it asks the consumer to pay. Because most producers and retailers charge a markup, it's really important to take into account how these markups respond to cost changes of imported components.
Businesses have the discretion to absorb those costs or pass them on to consumers.
You have to be aware that if you increase prices, consumers will consume less. We have been in this inflationary environment in the US for a longer period of time, so that the budget of consumer has gone down quite systematically for this kind of spending.
The White House rapidly proposed several tariff rate increases in the spring of 2025. This has led to confusion among a range of business leaders. The oil and gas industry, for example, is feeling pessimistic amid the uncertainty. Automakers have concerns too. Many parts within the vehicles cross borders under past global trade agreements. With tariffs in place, cars assembled in North America could cost $4,000 to $10,000 more.
Even though the American consumer is not necessarily buying this engine themselves, this is still going into the light truck that they are ultimately buying.
What we have seen, for example, is an increase in inventory. A lot of cars were sent over the Atlantic and the Pacific pre-Trump, but it means also that you can have a slowdown then in production in these countries afterward.
Higher tariff rates on China, Mexico, and Canada alone could affect consumer prices.
That would add between 0.5 and 0.8 percentage points to core PCE inflation, depending on how you think markups will respond.
If tariffs reach the maximum levels suggested by Trump while campaigning for his second term, it could add up to 2.2 percentage points to core PCE inflation.
So businesses do. So let's take a car, for example. The United States might build the car from a body standpoint within the United States or even within Mexico, for example. But the engine of that car is bought from the European, countries. So although we build the body, we don't actually build the engine or the parts that the engine is needed for, right? So when you take a car to the shop, a lot of times, depending on the type of vehicle that you own, it might take a certain amount of time for those parts to come in because we don't actually build the engines within the United States. So if to do business costs more money overseas, then who's going to pay for that upward price of that vehicle? It's going to be you. Like you will, right? That inflation of that engine or that parts of the vehicle, if it goes up $10,000, you're going to pay the majority of that money when it comes to, the business side. So if I'm GM, for example, I'm not going to eat that cost. It's not going to come into my business and my margin. No, it's going to hit you, right? So the tariffs, in one sense, could be a positive on one side when it comes to how Donald Trump is thinking about, how it affects world trade as a whole. But then on the other side, from a consumer standpoint, short term, it's going to be inflationary when it comes to how much things will be more expensive, right? So buying a car in about a couple of weeks might be $5,000 to $10,000 more expensive than it would have been just shortly 2 weeks ago.
In a statement to CNBC, a White House economic advisor said that tariffs from Trump's first term made no meaningful contributions to inflation. He added that foreign suppliers will have to eat the economic burden.
I think the odds are very high right now that we have not seen the last of the tariff proposals. He likes to use things as bargaining chips. And what he will do is start at the most extreme position and work his way in. The last thing Trump or any other president wants to do is to oversee a recession. If it's indicated that tariffs are going to cause a recession, he's certainly going to back down on that.
If tariff rates do rise, prices for products may cost more, even those made in the US.
For example, the clothes that you consume are imported. You also consume products that are made in America that also use imported components.
As a result, physical items, including pharmaceutical and medical products, new cars, clothes, and homes, could become more expensive.
Oh, let's look at this list real quick, right? So we talking about pharmaceuticals is our highest imported product. Or we just talked about the motor vehicles when it comes to our cars. And if you just look down this list, this is all inflationary items that could go up in price due to the tariffs and due to business and trade being more expensive.